I know this has happened in the past, but I feel like this year, more than ever, you keep seeing on these panels, of those 4 of the 8 or the 12, there's always a few people who are campaign surrogates.
Yeah. Is then chosen to be the head of the Department of Energy. And then what I figure is Donald Trump turned on the TV, he saw him on Dancing with the Stars and went, fuck, he's got a lot of energy. Steve Bannon, it leaves no room for, how do you make funny something that's already funny? How do you make it funnier?
He's genuinely funny. He's genuinely funny.
Yeah, no, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
Alternative facts? Who the fuck says that? In a book?
Trump's presidency provided more comedy material than any other in history, but Lewis Black's recent live TV takedown might be the most devastating yet. Black's routine wasn't just funny, it was surgical in its precision. Coming up, we'll break down each of Black's most brutal jokes, show you the audience's wild reaction, and reveal exactly what left Trump reportedly speechless for perhaps the first time in his public life. Plus, we'll explore why comparing Trump to a dog trying to drive a car might be the most accurate political analysis of the last decade. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. When it comes to roasting politicians, most comedians are content to poke fun at the easy targets. The orange tan, the weird hair, maybe a fumbled speech or two. But Lewis Black? He decided to perform a full-on verbal autopsy of Trump's presidency that had audiences both laughing and squirming in their seats. During his latest stand-up special, Black unleashed a comparison that sent the audience into absolute hysterics. Trump's presidency, he growled in that signature raspy voice of his, was like watching a demolition derby in a fireworks factory.
You know, we're going to those debates. The debates haven't even happened yet. But they're going to end, and they're going to be 8 or 12 of these idiots. Kellyanne Conway is not the person that you have explained to you what the president meant to say. And he calls me. He has my hotline.
Okay.
And every time he talks to Mike Huckabee, he calls me up in order to calm down.
Every time you thought, well, it can't get any more chaotic than this, boom! Another explosion, more debris flying everywhere, and him standing in the middle insisting everything was going tremendously well. The audience didn't just laugh, they had that specific kind of uncomfortable laughter that happens when something is both hilarious and painfully true. While comedians like Fallon were still tousling Trump's hair, Black went straight for the jugular of the administration's chaos. His cabinet had more turnover than a cheap diner's waitstaff, Black bellowed, his finger jabbing the air as his face got redder. Except at least at a diner, the waiters quit because the pay is bad. These people were quitting because the boss was insane. The line hit so hard because it wasn't just a joke. It was documentary evidence. Trump's administration set records for staff turnover, with more than 85% of his A-team positions changing hands during his 4 years. Black didn't stop there. He tore into the quality of Trump's appointments, too. He surrounded himself with people whose main qualification was nodding enthusiastically, while he rambled about windmills causing cancer and how we should inject bleach to cure COVID. It was like watching the world's worst job interview process. You'll mindlessly agree with everything I say, you're hired. What made Black's takedowns so devastating wasn't just the jokes, it was the brutal accuracy behind them. When he described Trump's leadership style, the comedian didn't mince words. "This isn't leadership," he said, his voice dropping to an almost serious tone before exploding again. This is what happens when you put a reality TV host in charge of an actual country. It's like asking a dog to perform brain surgery because you enjoyed watching him chase his tail. The audience reaction was telling. Most comedy shows about Trump generated easy laughs, but Black's performance created a different atmosphere. That uncomfortable recognition where people were laughing while simultaneously thinking, oh God, that really happened, didn't it? The demolition derby metaphor perfectly captured the non-stop chaos of the Trump years. The constant crises, the late-night firings via Twitter, the contradictory policies announced, and then abandoned days later. But what made it truly devastating was how it framed Trump not as some mastermind playing 4D chess, but as someone who accidentally set everything on fire while insisting it was all part of his brilliant plan. The genius of Trump, Black explained in a rare moment of almost calm before his signature explosion, is convincing people that breaking everything and having no idea how to fix it is actually a strategy. It's like watching someone crash their car into a tree and then claiming they meant to do landscape redesign. When Black delivered these lines, you could almost feel Trump's inability to respond. How do you counter a criticism when responding would only confirm it? If Trump claimed he wasn't chaotic, the evidence would contradict him. If he embraced the chaos as intentional, he'd confirm Black's point that he was destructive. There's something particularly effective about comedy that doesn't need to exaggerate to be funny. Black simply described what happened during the Trump administration, added his rage-filled delivery, and let reality do the heavy lifting. As Black pointed out, I don't need to write jokes about Trump. I just need to repeat the things he actually did and said, and then scream about how insane it all was. Reality did all the heavy lifting for Louis Black, but it was his dog driving a car metaphor that truly captured the essence of Trump's presidency. Ever wonder what happens when you give car keys to a creature that thinks licking itself is an accomplishment? According to Black, we already saw that experiment play out in the White House. Black's metaphor about Trump's competence might be the most brilliant political takedown we've seen in years. The beauty wasn't just in the humor, but in how perfectly it captured Trump's bizarre combination of complete incompetence paired with unshakable self-confidence. Watching Trump try to run the country was like watching a dog try to drive a car, except the dog was somehow convinced he was doing a fantastic job. Black explained to an audience that couldn't contain their laughter. What makes this comparison so perfect is how it acknowledges Trump's enthusiasm while highlighting the obvious problem. Dogs can't drive cars, and reality TV hosts with zero political experience probably shouldn't run countries. The audience completely lost it when Black followed up with, "It's not stable genius behavior, it's the plot of a bad sitcom." Anyone remember when Trump referred to himself as a stable genius? Black didn't need to remind us. He just had to point out how that self-assessment matched up with reality about as well as a chihuahua fits behind a steering wheel. But Black didn't just throw out clever metaphors and call it a day. He methodically listed some of Trump's most jaw-dropping presidential moments like a prosecutor building a case. Remember when the President of the United States stared directly at a solar eclipse? Or when he suggested we should consider nuking hurricanes? These weren't exaggerations or jokes Black made up. These were actual things that happened during an actual presidency. What really makes Black's comedy special is that he doesn't need to invent anything. As any comedian will tell you, the funniest material comes from truth.
It's the only way I can get through it.
Do you have a message for Trump supporters?
Oh, yeah. And I'm saying this as a friend. Kellyanne Conway is the person that you hire to get rid of your daughter's cheerleading rival. I mean, when you have a moment in time where a governor of Texas, Rick Perry...
They are there to represent the campaign.
Yeah, isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
You know, that the analysts aren't enough. You got to have somebody defend the person who's not there.
And Trump's presidency was like a comedy writer's dream journal come to life. Black just needed to recite the facts with his signature outrage delivery, and the audience was in stitches. Black's talent for capturing absurdity reached new heights when he described Trump's Twitter presence as a masterpiece of self-inflicted chaos, filled with misspelled conspiracy theories at 3 a.m. The image of the most powerful man in the world rage tweeting in the middle of the night while the world slept or worried is both hilarious and horrifying. The perfect recipe for Black's brand of comedy. What makes these jokes land so hard isn't just that they're funny, it's that they're devastatingly accurate. The audience's laughter and engagement showed a shared recognition of the chaotic reality they had all lived through. It's that uncomfortable kind of laughter where people are thinking, this is funny because it's true and it's terrifying that it's true. Why couldn't Trump respond to Black's takedown? Because any response would require acknowledging the specific examples Black cited. And since these weren't exaggerations but actual events everyone remembers, Trump had no way to dispute them without looking even more foolish. What's he going to say? I never stared at an eclipse when there are photos? I never suggested nuking hurricanes when multiple officials confirmed the story? The dog driving metaphor works on multiple levels. It captures Trump's eagerness and enthusiasm. Dogs are certainly excited about cars. It acknowledges his confidence. That dog definitely thinks it's doing great. And it perfectly illustrates the fundamental problem. Neither dogs nor Donald Trump have the basic qualifications needed for the task they've undertaken. What makes political humor truly effective isn't just landing a punchline, It's creating a framework that helps people process reality. Black didn't just make people laugh, he gave them a perfect metaphor to understand the Trump presidency. For years to come, people will think about Trump's time in office and picture a golden retriever behind the wheel of a car, tongue hanging out, absolutely convinced is doing a fantastic job as it crashes through mailboxes and fire hydrants. While the dog-driving metaphor captured Trump's real-world chaos, Black's dissection of Trump's Twitter kingdom revealed something far more disturbing than just bad spelling and early morning rants. Those infamous tweets weren't just embarrassing social media fails, they were presidential mood rings exposing exactly what kept Trump up at night. And it wasn't the welfare of American citizens. Trump's Twitter account became the ultimate reality show for Black's comedy arsenal. Unlike other comedians who merely poked fun at the typos or weird capitalization, Black performed a psychological evaluation through comedy, exposing the former president's inner workings 140 characters at a time. His Twitter was a surreal mix of all-caps tantrums, outright lies, and bizarre personal feuds, Black explained to a howling audience. The president was out here beefing with celebrities, while ignoring actual crises. The crowd couldn't contain themselves when Black pointed out how America's commander-in-chief was more concerned with what Rosie O'Donnell said about him than addressing things like, running the country. What really had audiences doubled over was Black's perfect characterization of Trump's tweeting style as having the impulse control of a toddler who just chugged a gallon of Mountain Dew. This wasn't just funny because it was mean, it was funny because it was eerily accurate. The man with nuclear codes had the same restraint as a sugar-rushed 5-year-old with mommy's unlocked phone. Black's bit about Trump's 3 a.m. Twitter sessions was especially brutal. He pantomimed the former president hunched over his phone in the dark, furiously tapping away while national security briefings collected dust on his nightstand. "Most presidents stay up worrying about North Korea," Black quipped. "This one stays up worrying about Saturday Night Live ratings." The comedy legend pointed out how Trump tweeted more than teenage influencers trying to score free products. This wasn't just a president with a social media habit. This was a president with a social media addiction, and his drug of choice was attention, any kind of attention. What made Black's Twitter takedown so devastating wasn't just that it was funny, it was how he connected Trump's digital meltdowns to real-world consequences. Every minute Trump spent feuding with CNN personalities or complaining about crowd sizes was a minute not spent addressing things presidents are actually supposed to do. Black laid bare how Trump's social media obsession wasn't just annoying, it was a governance failure playing out in real time for all to see. The tweets revealed Trump's actual priorities. While the country faced serious challenges, the president's timeline was filled with TV ratings complaints, celebrity feuds, and bizarre personal vendettas. Black pointed this out with surgical precision, showing how Trump's online persona wasn't separate from his presidency. It was a direct window into it. These weren't just embarrassing outbursts, Black explained, as the laughter died down and the crowd leaned in. They were windows into a presidency defined by ego, insecurity, and an inability to focus on what actually mattered. This wasn't just a comedian landing jokes anymore. This was a man holding up a mirror to power and forcing everyone to look at the reflection. Black later described Trump's tweets as the perfect fuel for comedic fire, noting how Trump's own words became his greatest vulnerability. The president didn't need critics when he was doing such a thorough job of undermining himself. Every all-caps rant, every 3 a.m. meltdown, every bizarre claim about crowd sizes or election fraud gave comedians like Black unlimited ammunition. What truly elevated Black's routine was how he flipped the script on presidential communication. Previous presidents carefully crafted their messages through teams of writers and strategists. Trump, meanwhile, bypassed them all to broadcast his unfiltered thoughts directly to the world. Thoughts that often contradicted his own administration's policies or previous statements he'd made just days earlier. The presidency has always involved a certain amount of theater, but Trump turned it into a one-man improv show where the audience never knew what would happen next, and neither apparently did his staff. Black highlighted how White House officials would wake up to completely new policies announced via tweet that they'd then have to scramble to implement or explain away. And here's the real kicker. The man who never shuts up finally clamped his mouth shut. For probably the first time since he learned to tweet, Mr. Thin-Skinned Trump had absolutely nothing to say in response to Louis Black's comedy grenade. No angry all-caps rants, no rally speeches calling Black a failing comedian, nothing. Total silence from the Twitter addict-in-chief. When a rage-filled comedian meets our tantrum-throwing ex-president, something magical happens. Millions of Americans who survived 4 years of political chaos get to breathe a sigh of relief through their laughter. It's like group therapy, but funnier. Black didn't just make jokes. He gave us the perfect words to describe the bizarre reality show that was masquerading as a presidency. Finally, someone put into words what we all felt but couldn't quite express while watching the orange tornado spin through Washington.